Hello and welcome to the big picture. Just as the temperature soared following the statements of Prime Minister Narendra Modi reminding Pakistan of their human rights violations in Gilgit-Baltistan, POK and Balochistan, India has laid down certain conditions for resumption of talks. The Indian Foreign Secretary Jaishankar, who has accepted his Pakistani counterpart's invitation for talks, has however hardened the stance. The latest missive to his Pakistani counterpart lists a 5-point agenda if the talks have to resume. So what do these 5 points mean and will it be accepted by Pakistan? Why does Pakistan want talks at this stage when the relationship seems to have hit another new low? What is the strategy behind India putting forward this 5-point agenda, which also very importantly includes vacation of the POK by Pakistan? We will discuss all this today with Vivek Karjo, former ambassador, A.S. Dulat, former RAW chief, Professor S.D. Muni, South Asia analyst and Professor Emeritus at JNU, Siddharth Vardarajan, founding editor of the Wire.in, and on the phone line from Islamabad is Imtiaz Gul, senior journalist and political analyst. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Karjo, what is this 5-point agenda?
Look, let's place it in perspective. Ever since the terrorist Burhan Wani's killing, the Pakistanis have gone in a propaganda overdrive, apart from orchestrating all that is happening in the Kashmir Valley. And as part of that process, they decided, and Sartaj Aziz is on record saying that they decided that the Pakistani Foreign Secretary will invite his Indian counterpart for talks on Jammu and Kashmir, not on the resumption of the composite dialogue or some such thing, or beginning of the comprehensive bilateral dialogue, for talks exclusively on Jammu and Kashmir. What was that? That was a propaganda ploy. Apparently, this decision was taken during an ambassador's meeting in Islamabad on the 3rd and 4th of this month. And when did they execute this? They gave the invitation letter to our High Commissioner on Independence Day. Now, that itself betrays that it's part of a propaganda campaign. So what has Jaishankar responded? He has responded in kind. That is one. Second, I think the significant aspect which he has put on the table, which has been done for the first time, it should have been done ages ago, but he's put it on the table that this time around, we'll not only discuss terrorism and the cessation of Pakistani hostilities and interference, intrusion in Kashmir, the return of Indian terrorists whom they are harboring, but we will also discuss something that flows from our constitutional position on Jammu and Kashmir, which is the vacation of Pakistan territory, Pakistan occupied territory. Now, this is a new element, and I personally welcome it, because for far too long, we have allowed the focus only to be on the territories which remain with us and which are not under Pakistan's illegal and forcible control. What Jaishankar is now saying is logical. It flows from the Indian constitutional position.
A completely new element has been added to the...
and a welcome element.
Mr. Imtiaz Gul, Mr. Gul, you think that this is what the Pakistan government is doing, inviting us for talks, inviting the Indian Foreign Secretary for talks, is all a propaganda campaign?
Well, I'm surprised if you call it a propaganda campaign. You have seen 80 people going down. You have seen a couple of dozen people losing their eyesight to the pellet bullets. And if a party to the Kashmir conflict, which is still, I think, part of the UN agenda, UN security resolutions. So if you call it a propaganda, well, that's, of course, your prerogative. But there is a situation which I think everybody has to take into consideration. And secondly, it's very clearly, the Indian government, current government has shifted the goalposts. If you look at the history of the Kashmir dispute, the past ever since Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister, gave a commitment to the United Nations in November, October 1947, to date, there have been at least 20 major statements, joint declarations on talks between the Prime Ministers or the Foreign Secretaries or the Foreign Ministers, in which both sides undertook to address the Kashmir issue. They both agreed to continue talking about it. So if now there is a demand raised on the evacuation by the Pakistani, vacation by the Pakistani troops of the what you are calling Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, this is clearly shifting of the goalposts, and I don't think this is something that would go down well or would be amenable for discussions on as far as Pakistan is concerned. I'm just going by what the historical documents say, what both countries have been committing to each other, and that's it.
Okay.
No, this requires a clarification. One sentence.
What is the clarification?
When we said we will discuss Jammu and Kashmir, we never defined it in the manner that Mr. Gul is talking about. For us, those discussions, the subtext of those discussions was always vacation of Pakistan territory. This time around, it's been put squarely and tangibly on the table. That is all.
Okay, Professor Muni,
Well, I see.
do you see this as a shifting of goalpost, as Imtiaz Gul points out?
No, it is a shifting of the goalpost, as even Vivek said, on the question of Pak-occupied Kashmir. There is no denying that. And I can go into some details of that. The second one, the propaganda issue is concerned. I think there is a running thread in Pakistan's position all along, that you put more pressure on India, then only India will talk to us. And you know, in the last 2 years, the position India had taken clearly or ambiguously is that we will not talk to you meaningfully unless you come down on the terrorism issue. I think which Mr. Modi made it clear, Jaishankar made it clear, Government of India made it clear from the beginning. Therefore, the Pakistanis thought that now since India is under pressure, let us say that now you come and talk to us on Kashmir. And Jaishankar's response on the 4-point, not the 5th one, 4-point is very clearly that look, we will not talk to you on these terms.
The 4 points, there is nothing new in that.
No, the 4-point is a message that we will not talk to you. Because none of the 4 points can Pakistan digest and come to the table. This is absolutely clear. I think diplomatically it is very clear to everybody else. Now coming to the POK issue, I have slight difference from what Vivek says and of course difference from what Mr. Gul says. There was a duality in India's position. The stated constitutional official position was that the entire Kashmir belongs to India. The political and bargaining position was that we were willing to settle it earlier on the ceasefire line. Right. Even Nehru tried that. And later on the line of control. Because Mrs. Gandhi got the line of control drawn on the assumption that Bhutto has accepted that we will accept this as a final international border. Now this duality was creating a lot of problem for India. This duality was giving scope of maneuverability to Pakistan. And you would remember that in 1974, Bhutto brought about certain constitutional changes in the position in POK, largely driven by this position. I think that is a shift that we have bridged this, we seem to have bridged this gap and saying nothing doing. Our stated position now is that we will have to take the entire Kashmir, POK back to India and integrate it.
Mr. Dulat, what are the consequences of this? This new position, new stated position.
You see, it's like this. I agree with what Ambassador Karju said that of late Pakistan has been unnecessarily provocative on Kashmir. Although the situation in Kashmir has been bad, let's face it. It's been bad. It's still very bad. But you know, there have been a lot of statements from Pakistan which unnecessarily, even the Prime Minister said that, you know, this is the unfinished agenda of partition. And I thought the High Commissioner here on his Independence Day also made a needlessly provocative statement. These are uncalled for when you want to improve relations. At the same time, like Professor Muni said, that the opposition has been that. I mean, realistically speaking, if we look at J&K, it always has been. I mean, this is the unsaid thing, and some people have said it many times. Like Farooq Abdullah has said it 20 times. That the only solution to Kashmir is that they keep what they have and we keep what we have. And if you go back to Musharraf's 4-point formula,
there was almost, we are told, and Mr. Kaju should be able to tell us, that we almost came to an understanding on this.
Right, that's right.
During Mr. Vajpayee's time.
So now my point
we drew
is,
ceasefire line on that assumption.
Exactly.
yeah, no, my point is that we've set a 5-point agenda for talks. Fine, but I feel that talks should never stop. We must always talk. Now there's a point I'd like to make here, that what has happened is that in Pakistan, actually the most meaningful talks always are held at the summit, between politicians. The position in Pakistan is such that Mia Saab's position has been considerably weakened and compromised since the Panama Papers revelation. So now I think the real talking has to be done to the Pakistani army. And I might mention here that the NSAs have been in contact, they have been talking, they have been meeting, and I think that is the dialogue that needs to be pushed forward.
Not the foreign secretary level talk.
No, foreign secretary level is the more cosmetic one. It's the one which is always carried on. But this is one which is, like what you have, what's it called?
Composite dialogue?
Yeah.
Composite dialogue.
Yeah, whatever. Not really composite dialogue, but what is not on the surface. And it must continue. In fact, I would strongly recommend a visit by our NSA to Pakistan.
Okay, yes, sir.
The NSA's channel is a duplicitous channel. It has failed us, and the sooner we abandon it, the better. That is my considered view. The NSA's channel was based on a false presumption.
What about the foreign
No,
secretary?
please. It was based on a false presumption that the army is on board with Mia Saab's endeavors. That was the whole problem with the December initiative. If we are continuing with it, it is a sad day for us, for our country.
No, I would just like to, correct Ambassador Kaju here. This NSA thing has been tried twice. First time during Mr. Brijesh Mishra's time, that's when it started. And that led to Prime Minister Vajpayee's visit for the SAARC summit in Islamabad in 2004. My own feeling is, I'm only talking from the outside, it's my gut feeling. I think even now, the dialogue between the NSAs is a good dialogue.
Will be more fruitful than they.
I think so.
Okay.
You can talk,
I'll come to Siddharth.
You can talk to NSA, but I am slightly uncomfortable with talking to the army, Daulat Saab. And
Who talks to the army?
no, he said we must
Who from
talk
India will talk to the army?
should not. That's precisely what I am
We have
saying.
never done that.
We have never done it, and doing it at a time when the Prime Minister's authority seems to be eroded would really be weakening him further down.
Okay. Siddharth, how do you look at this 5-point agenda and especially the addition of this new demand or whatever you want to call it?
Well, the 5-point agenda has always been there, Girish.
The fifth
India
one.
has been insisting right from the resumption of dialogue after Vajpayee ji went to Islamabad that Pakistan must abide by its promise of not allowing its territory to be used for acts of violence against India. And these 5 points are essentially an elaboration of that promise that Musharraf made, which India fully expects Pakistan to abide by. So there's nothing exceptional in
Not
these
even
five
the
points.
POK,
Although I
not
have
even the
to say
vacation,
that
not
the
even the
manner of its
vacation of POK.
reiteration- No, you see, I'll come to that. The 5 points are something separate. The 5 points are what Jaishankar or the MEA are saying is the immediate agenda for talks if we're going to talk on Kashmir. And this is a response to the Pakistani Foreign Secretary's invitation. The raising of POK as an issue, Ambassador Karju is quite right that this has always been there in the background. India never foregrounded it, although there is the parliament resolution which all successive governments have had to bear in mind. But notwithstanding that, India and Pakistan had a dialogue, the back channel, for example, which envisaged so-called out-of-the-box solutions for a final settlement of J&K. My problem with the current turn of events is that both the governments of India and Pakistan are laboring under, how should I put it, are in a way deluding themselves about certain fundamentals. Pakistan is deluding itself that the current crisis in Kashmir is a historic opportunity for it to somehow stir the pot and accomplish its long-cherished goal of separating Jammu and Kashmir from India. They are convinced, and we can see that in the cussedness and the provocative nature of some of the statements emanating from Islamabad, a reflection of the Pakistani belief that, as they say, ek dhakka aur do, and somehow J&K will get detached from India. Well, that's not going to happen. Similarly, the government of India is laboring under the delusion that everything currently unfolding in the valley is the handiwork of Pakistan. Pakistan is undoubtedly taking advantage. Pakistan will fuel this. Pakistan will encourage this. But as long as the government of India refuses to acknowledge that there is a strong domestic dimension, that the fact that people are on the streets, the fact that you have 40 days of continuous curfew, this is the product of mishandling over many years by New Delhi. And I'm afraid that some of the sharp language and escalation of rhetoric that we are seeing vis-a-vis Pakistan is an attempt by New Delhi, is an attempt by the Modi government to sidestep its responsibility to actually address the domestic political dimension of the Jammu Kashmir problem, which to my mind is the main dimension. And unless we get a grip on this, I'm afraid you can have all the rhetoric and as bad relations as Pakistan as you want, but that will not solve the problem on the streets.
Mr. Gul, would you admit that the unnecessary provocative statements that are being made from your side, from your Prime Minister, from other leaders, from there, just to ensure, because there is a problem in Jammu and Kashmir in the last few weeks, you're trying to take advantage of it?
Well, the problem in Jammu and Kashmir is not just a few weeks. I think it has been there.
The latest round of problems I'm talking about.
If you could let me complete my sentence. The problem has been around, and it's like there have been spikes in this, everybody knows. And as far as the provocative statements, perhaps tomorrow all my Indian friends who are sitting right now would call the UN General Secretary's request to both countries for sorting this out through dialogue also a provocation. I guess, number one, both India and Pakistan have a certain responsibility vis-a-vis Kashmir based on their commitments that they have given at the United Nations. And secondly, you simply cannot deny, what has been happening there. And the way the Indian Prime Minister tries to equate Kashmir with Balochistan is also amounts to provocation and a gross, ridiculous, ludicrous violation and also contravention of the truth. Equating Kashmir with Balochistan is also, I think, a bigger provocation than what Pakistani leaders have been saying as matter of members of the United Nations and their commitment to the international community on Kashmir. So I think both countries, both sides need to set aside the rhetoric and address the issue. There have been deaths, there have been injuries to people in Kashmir. This is something that I think your own media has been talking about. It's not just about Pakistani provocation. I wish it was just the Pakistani provocation that have put Kashmir on fire. It's up to you, of course, to describe Wani or all others as terrorists or militants, whatever you call. But I think denial of history and denial of facts on ground is very, very unfair to people which you are saying are part of the Indian Union.
Okay. Professor Muni?
Yeah. I just want to respond to Mr. Gul's statement. I think Pakistan should not be unnecessarily disturbed by asking for them to vacate the POK. Because Pakistanis are the one who have been repeatedly telling us of the UN resolutions. And this is the very first component of the UN resolution, that for any meaningful discussion on Kashmir, Pakistanis should get out of the POK and vacate it for administrative stability and all that. So therefore, I think if Pakistanis are very sincere in UN resolution, they must accept this as a part of UN resolution and respond accordingly.
Okay. Would you like to respond to that, Mr. Gul? I think we have lost him. We'll get him back. Mr. Kaju, now the point made by Imtiaz Gul that we have also been making provocative statements. The statement on Balochistan again is something which has come up very. Nobody, no Indian Prime Minister that had spoken of Balochistan the way it is done. So they are seeing it as a provocation.
A couple of things. The first point, I think there is, of course, a domestic aspect to the Kashmir issue, which is there. It needs to be addressed by Delhi.
So you accept that there is a problem there?
Please hear me out. I think the Kashmiri leadership is as much to blame as the mishandling in Delhi. Both sides have done it. But it is my conviction, and I have written about it recently, that we cannot successfully address the domestic issue in Kashmir unless the Pakistani contaminant which has been flowing in Kashmir, the intrusiveness that they've developed in Kashmir, stops. We've tried.
You're linking the two.
Please, just let me explain. We've tried to address it during the Manmohan Singh period, for instance, by addressing the external situation. We wanted to influence the internal dynamics of Kashmir, which is our territory. That just simply doesn't work. So we'll have to take steps to stop this contaminant. Now, what is the Prime Minister signaled in through Balochistan? And he's been very careful to nuance it. He's only talked of human rights violations. Major powers talk of human rights violations in different countries. The Americans do it, the Europeans do it all the time. So what is wrong in our saying that in Balochistan there's a human rights problem, which right from the beginning, there is the fourth insurgency which they are facing. They attribute these insurgencies to all kinds of foreign powers, not only India. They've done it in the past. But the fact is that there is a human rights violation going on. The Pakistani courts themselves are saying this, that the record of the Pakistan army is terrible in Balochistan. They butchered those people. And if the Prime Minister speaks about it, they start quoting the UN Charter when they have been intrusive in Kashmir.
So is it a tit for tat?
No, it is not a tit for tat. It is taken together, putting POK on the table squarely, as has been done, raising the Balochistan not in the context of a national liberation struggle, no, in the context of human rights, is an indication to the international community that gears are shifting here. And please take note.
Mr. Dulat, the question is, how much of the problem which we are witnessing in Kashmir now is internal, domestic, and how much of it is external?
Well, the problem,
and also the issue of, I want you to address the issue of Balochistan.
The problem is mostly internal, and whenever this kind of problem erupts, it has been happening in Kashmir from time to time, Pakistan makes the most of it. It's an invitation to Pakistan, In this particular case, it was all triggered by the killing of Burhan Wani. And I think Pakistan took 3 or 4 days to figure out what was happening, because there was a big uprising here, almost spontaneous, whatever happened in South Kashmir.
And even yesterday we saw killings.
Yeah, but it's been going on now for quite a while. So the point is that the moment it took Pakistan, as I say, 3-4 days to this. Now they are all over. I mean, it is the Lashkar and the Jaish which is calling the shots. They are present in public meetings and things like that. But I think there's been a lot of mishandling of Kashmir, and you can put the blame on the state government. It's a very weak state government, totally dependent on Delhi. Even Mehbooba doesn't say anything. She's totally committed to Delhi. And therefore, in the eyes of the Kashmiris, she's nothing but a stooge. I think Mehbooba is finished. That story is almost over. It's a question of when she wants to declare herself a martyr. But it's a sad story. But I think the mishandling is here in Delhi.
May I say just one sentence?
Yeah.
With all respect, Mr. Dullat's knowledge of Kashmir is enormous. I've seen this at play in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a troubled state. The Pakistanis, through their interference, have ensured that the domestic processes in Afghanistan simply cannot succeed.
Is that the same thing?
No. Yes, just let me complete. The infection keeps flowing. Now, if there is a body which needs to be treated and then recuperate, it has to go for recuperation. If the infection keeps flowing from outside, and if the intrusiveness in
we are not able to
no, please.
stop
If the intrusive,
talks about, there is an infection. Let's just think. That infection does Kashmir and Kashmiris no good, and the Kashmiris know it. That it has brought them nothing but death and destruction, and they have had enough of Pakistan. But at the same time, what the Kashmiri wants is, recently, what's his name? The former Union Home Minister Chidambaram said, if necessary, we should go back to 47-53. I said, let's forget about 47-53 because realistically, it's not going to happen. And after that, we've heard about autonomy, we've heard about self-rule. Basically, at least give the Kashmiri accommodation, give him self-respect, and make him feel that there is justice for him.
Okay,
That's
but
the
you
bottom
didn't
line.
address the issue of
unless I'm serious about this, I think it needs to be aired. I think you can try anything. And we should try that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't address these issues. Of course we should. But it's my conviction.
the problem comes from outside. Your
They
conviction is the
rule it
problem
through
comes from
fear
outside.
and the gun.
No,
They kill
yes,
people
Siddharth,
there.
Siddharth,
They've killed people in the past.
Siddharth, where does the solution lie? And this 5-point agenda which has been placed, which as one of my panelists pointed out, that this is something which Pakistan will not be able to deliver as far as they are concerned. So you think that this talks will just be that and nothing will happen in the near future?
I am a supporter of engagement and talks, even when times are difficult as they are right now. The silver lining in the to and fro of the past few days is that India has responded positively to Pakistan's invitation and has presented an outline of what it believes should be the main topic of discussion when it comes to J&K. India could have rejected Pakistan's suggestion offhand, but I think the MEA has been very wise in laying out a roadmap for what this discussion should look like. As far as I know, Pakistan has not rejected this agenda yet. So if the two foreign secretaries meet and have a discussion on this, excellent, then they can figure out how to proceed next.
Okay.
But the important issue here is that both the leaders of India and Pakistan need to dial back the rhetoric. I don't agree at all with my dear friend Ambassador Karju that this is a simple matter of the Prime Minister of India referring to human rights violations. There is a very clear attempt to needle Pakistan. I'm not saying that Pakistan doesn't need needling. Pakistan's behavior in the past month has been atrocious and delusional. But human rights violations occur on a much greater scale in the Fatah region where the Pakistani Air Force has been using F-16s against its people. You have US drone strikes happening which have killed civilians. We have never spoken about those kinds of human rights violations. So there is an attempt to hit Pakistan where it is where Pakistan is vulnerable.
Mr. Gul, very quickly.
I just worry that not enough analysis has gone into this.
Okay, Mr. Gul, very quickly, you think that the foreign secretary level talks can resume in this atmosphere?
Well, it's very difficult as long as the mindset that is currently ruling in New Delhi and the kind of rhetoric we have heard just right now also in this program will make it very, very difficult for any sort of talks to be fruitful. I think, as Siddharth suggested, both sides need to dial back, tone down their rhetoric and the provocative statements. Until that happens, it will be very, very difficult for anybody to expect any fruitful outcome of these talks. And they shall have to, rather than subverting and denying history, they shall have to basically look at the ground facts and treat the matter on merits.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Gul. Thank you. Thanks. So that's it. Things are not in a good situation. The blow hot, blow cold situation which we keep witnessing as far as India-Pak ties continues to happen. I don't know. We'll have to wait and watch where it will all lead to. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, the big picture. Same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.